My sister-in-law claimed I hit her child. It was a lie, but my husband believed her. You're always a temper, he said. I smiled. Look closer. I showed the DNA test. The child wasn't mine. Camera caught her face. She left a note. You need to see the rest. Let me tell you about the day my whole world flipped upside down like a pancake at IHOP. I'm sitting here with my third cup of Dunkin' coffee, still processing everything that went down. This story's gonna sound wild, but I swear on my grandmother's apple pie recipe, every word is true. So picture this. It's a regular Tuesday afternoon, and I'm chilling at home watching Netflix when my sister-in-law Sarah shows up at my door, with her kid Tommy. Kid's maybe 4 years old, cute as a button, but hyper as heck. Sarah's all frazzled, talking about some emergency at work and begging me to watch Tommy for a few hours. Now, Sarah and I have never been tight. She's one of those people who thinks the world revolves around her, you know? Always got drama, always needs something. But Tommy's just a kid, and I'm not gonna say no to helping out family, even if his mom drives me up the wall. Sarah drops. Tommy often bolts faster than someone running late for Black Friday deals at Target. The kid's actually pretty chill at first. We're watching Bluey, sharing some goldfish crackers, just hanging out. But then Tommy starts getting cranky around nap time. He's throwing toys, whining about wanting his mommy, the whole 9 yards. I'm trying to calm him down, being all patient and stuff, when he has a complete meltdown. Starts screaming bloody murder, thrashing around like he's possessed or something. I'm talking full-on tantrum mode, the kind that makes you understand why some parents look dead inside at Walmart. I managed to get him settled down after about 20 minutes of chaos. Kid finally crashes on the couch, snoring like a tiny bulldozer. I'm cleaning up the toy explosion when Sarah comes back, and that's when everything went sideways. The moment she walks in, Tommy wakes up and immediately starts crying again. But this time, he runs to his mom and starts saying stuff that made my blood run cold. She hit me, Mommy. She was mean to me. I'm standing there like, what the heck? I never laid a finger on this kid. Sure, I was frustrated, but I didn't even raise my voice that much. Sarah's face goes from 0 to nuclear in about 2 seconds flat. You hit my son? She screams, scooping Tommy up like I'm some kind of monster. Sarah, I swear I didn't touch him, I say, trying to stay calm even though my heart's pounding like a drum at a football game. But she's not hearing it. She's going off about how she knew she couldn't trust me, how I've always been jealous of her and her perfect little family. Perfect family, that's rich coming from someone whose husband walked out 6 months ago. Then my husband Mike comes home from work, and Sarah immediately launches into this sob story about how I abused her precious angel. She's laying it on thick, tears streaming down her face like she's auditioning for a Lifetime movie. Mike looks at me with this expression I'd never seen before, like he's seeing a stranger instead of his wife of 5 years. Is this true? He asks, and I can hear the doubt in his voice. Mike, you know me. I would never hurt a child, I tell him, but I can see he's already making up his mind. That's when Sarah drops the real bomb. You've always had anger issues, she says to me, then turns to Mike. Remember that time she threw the remote at the TV during the Super Bowl? Okay, first of all, that was an accident, and second, it was because the Packers were getting destroyed and I was emotionally invested. But Mike's nodding like this proves I'm capable of child abuse. Update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support so far. This gets way crazier, trust me. Some of you are asking if I had any proof of what really happened. Well, let's just say, I'm smarter than they gave me credit for. Should I have told them about the cameras right away, or was I right to wait and see how far they'd take their lies? The next few days were absolutely brutal. Mike's giving me the cold shoulder, sleeping in the guest room, acting like I'm some kind of criminal. Sarah's been texting him constantly, playing the concerned sister card and probably poisoning him, against me even more. But here's the thing, I'm not just gonna sit there and take this nonsense. I've been married to Mike since we were both 23, and I know him better than anyone. He's a good guy, but he's got this blind spot when it comes to his family. His mom could probably convince him that water isn't wet if she tried hard. Enough. So I start doing some detective work of my own. See, what Sarah and Mike don't know is that I installed some of those Ring cameras around the house after we had that break-in scare last year. One of them has a perfect view of our living room where I was watching Tommy. I pull up the footage from that day, and sure enough, there it all is. Tommy having his meltdown, me trying to calm him down, and most importantly, me never once laying a hand on that kid. The whole tantrum, the toy throwing, everything's right there in high definition, but I don't show Mike the footage right away. Call it petty, but I want to see just how far this is gonna go. How much my own husband trusts me versus believing his dramatic sister-in-law. Turns out, not very far at all. 3 days later, Mike comes to me with divorce papers. Actual divorce papers like he went to a lawyer and everything. I'm sitting there staring at these documents like they're written in ancient Greek. Mike, are you serious right now? I ask him. I can't be married to someone who hurts children, he says, not even looking me in the eye. Sarah's talking about pressing charges. That's when I lose it. Not angry lose it, but laughing my butt off lose it. I'm cracking up like I just heard the best joke of the century. Mike's looking at me like I've completely lost my marbles. This isn't funny, he says. Oh, but it is, I tell him, wiping tears from my eyes. It's hilarious. You want to divorce me over something that never happened, based on the word of your lying sister-in-law and a 4-year-old who is having a meltdown. The evidence is pretty clear, Mike says, all self-righteous. Evidence? You want evidence? I grab my laptop and pull up the Ring app. Let's talk about evidence. I show him the footage, and watching his face change is better than winning the lottery. He goes from smug and certain to confused to absolutely horrified as he realizes what he's done. Where did this come from? He asks, like he's never seen our security system before. Our cameras, genius, the ones you helped me install last year. But Sarah's not done yet. When Mike calls her over to see the footage, she shows up with this whole new story. Now she's claiming that I must have done something off camera, that Tommy wouldn't lie, that the cameras don't show everything. She's getting desperate, and desperate. People do stupid things. Update. Okay, so the plot thickens here, and some of you in the comments are gonna flip when you hear this next part. Someone asked if Sarah had any other motives for trying to break up my marriage. Turns out you guys are pretty good at reading between the lines. The family drama is about to get so much messier. Anyone else starting to suspect what Sarah's real game might be? That's when I decide to drop the real bombshell. See, while I was reviewing all the camera footage from that week, I noticed something interesting. Sarah had been coming by the house a lot more than I realized, sometimes when I wasn't even home, times when only Mike was there. So I did what any suspicious wife would do. I checked the footage from those visits too. Let me tell you, what I found was better than any soap opera on daytime TV. There's Sarah showing up at my house while I'm at work, spending hours alone with my husband. And not just hanging out either. We're talking cozy conversations on the couch, her crying on his shoulder about her divorce, him comforting her in ways that definitely crossed some lines. The final piece of evidence was from 2 weeks before, the whole Tommy incident. Clear as day, there's footage of Sarah kissing my husband in our kitchen. My kitchen with my coffee maker and my little herb garden on the windowsill. When I show Mike this footage, the man turns whiter than a ghost at a haunted house. It's not what it looks like, he starts, but I cut him off. Oh, it's exactly what it looks like. Your sister-in-law has been playing the long game, and you fell for it like a fish taking bait. Sarah tries to do damage control, claiming it was just a moment of weakness, that she was emotional about her divorce and Mike was just being supportive. But I'm not buying it, and neither is Mike anymore. So let me get this straight, I say, looking between the two of them. Sarah's been trying to break up our marriage so she can have you for herself, and when her seduction routine wasn't working fast enough, she decided to frame me for child abuse? The silence in that room was so thick you could cut it with a butter knife. But wait, there's more. Because I'm nothing if not thorough, I decided to dig a little deeper into Sarah's claims about Tommy. Something about the whole situation just felt off, you know? I start thinking about Tommy's reaction when Sarah came to pick him up that day, how he immediately started crying and saying I hit him, even though he'd been fine just minutes before. Kids don't usually make up stuff like that out of nowhere. So I do some research about coaching children to lie, and let me tell you, it's more common than you'd think, especially in custody battles and family disputes. Parents will sometimes coach their kids to say certain things to get what they want. I start paying attention to how Sarah interacts with Tommy, and sure enough, I catch her coaching him. It's subtle, but it's there. Remember what we talked about Aunt Sarah doing? She'll say to him. Remember how mean she was? The kid's not even 5 years old, and his own mother is teaching him to lie about adults hurting him. That's some next-level messed up behavior right there. But the real kicker comes when I'm going through more of the security footage, trying to piece together Sarah's pattern of visits. I find something that makes my jaw drop to the floor. There's footage of Sarah in our house one afternoon, going through our mail. Not just glancing at it, but actually opening envelopes and reading. Our personal documents, bank statements, insurance papers, even some legal documents we had about buying a new car. She was gathering information about our finances, probably trying to figure out what she'd get if she successfully broke up our marriage and ended up with Mike. When I show this to Mike, he finally sees his sister for who she really is. Not the grieving divorcee who needed support, but a manipulative person who was willing to use her own child as a weapon to destroy our marriage. Update. Final update, and holy moly, this story has an ending that even I didn't see coming. Thanks to everyone who's been following along and giving advice. Someone in the comments asked if there were any other surprises, and let me just say, Sarah left us one final gift that exposed just how deep this rabbit hole went. You're not gonna believe what was in that note she mentioned or how this whole thing wrapped up. Justice definitely got served, but not in the way anyone expected. The confrontation that followed was epic. Mike finally grew a backbone and told Sarah exactly what he thought of her scheme. She tried to deny everything at first, but when faced with hours of video evidence, even she couldn't spin her way out of it. But Sarah's not the type to go quietly. When she realized her plan had completely backfired, she made one last desperate play. She threatened to go to the police and claim that both Mike and I were abusing Tommy, thinking she could still manipulate the situation to her advantage. That's when I played my final card. Remember how I mentioned that Sarah had been acting strange lately? Well, it turns out she'd been planning this for months. I found text messages on an old phone she'd left at our house, messages to some guy named Brad about her exit strategy, and how she was going to land on her feet after destroying my marriage. Turns out Brad was some dude she'd been seeing, and the whole plan was for her to break up my marriage, get with Mike for his money and stability, then eventually leave him for Brad once she'd secured her financial situation. She was playing everyone. The messages were detailed enough to show premeditation. She'd been studying our routines, figuring out when to make her moves, even researching how to coach Tommy to lie convincingly. It was like reading the playbook of a sociopath. When I showed these messages to Mike, something finally clicked for him. He realized that his sister hadn't just betrayed me, she'd betrayed him too. He was never the endgame. He was just a stepping stone in her twisted plan. The note Sarah left that day, the one that said, "You need to see the rest," it wasn't some cryptic threat like we thought. It was actually her admitting defeat. she'd hidden a confession letter in our house tucked behind a picture frame in the guest room where she'd been staying sometimes. In the letter, she admitted to everything. The coaching Tommy, the seduction attempts, the plan to frame me and break up our marriage. She wrote it like some kind of insurance policy, probably thinking she could use it to negotiate if things went south. But the best part, she also admitted that she'd been stealing from us. Small amounts here and there, cash from Mike's wallet, gift cards I thought I'd lost, even some of my jewelry. She'd been funding her little scheme with our own money. We took everything to the police, the videos, the text messages, the confession letter, all of it. They were very interested in the child coaching aspect, since that's considered a form of child abuse itself. Sarah ended up facing charges for theft, fraud, and child endangerment. The courts also got involved with Tommy's custody situation, since using a child to make false abuse allegations is taken very seriously. As for Mike and me, well, let's just say our marriage needed some serious repair work. We went to counseling, had some tough conversations about trust and family loyalty. It took time, but we worked through it. Mike had to come to terms with the fact that his sister was willing to destroy his marriage and traumatize her own child to get what she wanted. That's not an easy thing to accept about someone you love. Shakti Zayed. Divorce papers got shredded, obviously. Mike spent weeks apologizing and trying to make it up to me. He felt horrible about believing Sarah over me, about not trusting his own wife. But honestly, I'm kind of glad it happened. Not the whole traumatic ordeal, but the wake-up call. It showed us both what we were made of and what our marriage was really worth. Sarah? Last I heard, she lost custody of Tommy to his father, who'd been fighting for years to get his son away from her toxic influence. She's facing criminal charges and has been pretty much cut off from the entire family. Tommy's doing better now, too. Kids are resilient, and with proper counseling and a stable environment with his dad, he's learning that lying about serious things like abuse has real consequences. As for me, I'm sitting here in my kitchen, drinking coffee from my favorite mug, watching my husband make pancakes on a Saturday morning. Our Ring cameras are still up and running, but now they just capture normal, boring family life. Sometimes I think about that whole crazy week and shake my head. How someone could be so calculating, so willing to hurt innocent people to get what they want. But then I remember that not everyone thinks like that. Most people are good, decent folks who don't try to destroy families for personal gain. Mike learned a valuable lesson about blind family loyalty versus actually looking at the evidence. I learned that sometimes you have to let people show you who they really are before you can protect yourself. And Tommy? He learned that telling the truth is always better than lying, even when someone you trust tells you to lie. The funny thing is, Sarah thought she was so smart, so clever with her elaborate plan. But she forgot one crucial detail. The truth has a way of coming out, especially when it's recorded in high definition on multiple security cameras. These days, when people ask me about trust in marriage, I tell them this story. Not to scare them, but to remind them that real trust isn't blind faith. It's believing in someone because you know their character, because their actions match their words, because they've proven themselves worthy of that trust over time. Mike and I are stronger now than we were before all this drama went down. We communicate better, we don't take each other for granted, and we definitely don't let family members stay in our guest room without doing some serious background checks first. As for Sarah, I hope she gets the help she needs. What she did was wrong on so many levels, but holding on to anger about it would just poison my own happiness. She has to live with the consequences of her choices, and that's punishment enough. The security cameras stay up, though. Not because I don't trust Mike, but because apparently there are people out there crazy enough to coach 4-year-olds to lie about abuse just to break up a marriage. Better safe than sorry, you know, and that's my story. Wild ride from start to finish, but it all worked out in the end. Sometimes life throws you curveballs that seem impossible to handle, but if you stay true to yourself and trust in the truth, things have a way of working out. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got some pancakes calling my name and a husband who owes me about 1 million more apologies. Life's good when the bad guys get what they deserve and the good guys get to keep their pancakes.